Hi everyone. In this video I want to show you the grading system in PatternMaker Pro. And for those that are not familiar, PatternMaker Pro is a pattern drafting software for sewing patterns. And if you want to learn more about it, I have a couple other more introductory videos for you to watch. In particular, I would suggest that you watch the memorization video because we're going to use some of those techniques in this process, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail as to how that works. Pattern grading is the process of taking one pattern and then creating more sizes off of it. You can maybe start with a size 10 and go up to a 12 and a 14 and down to a 8 and a 6. That's really a common size range. PatternMaker Pro grading is not like anything you've ever seen before. Initially, when I started out, I built an entire grading system that works like most systems work. I've got an example here for you from the book Metric Pattern Cutting for Women's Wear. So I think this is a really good example of how traditional pattern grading would work. You are going to select all the key points on the pattern, and then you have to individually state how those points will move for each size. And here you can see she's saying that this one moves 6 millimeters horizontally, this one moves 6 millimeters horizontally and 3 vertically. And you can get the gist of what's happening here. And when I built the original grading system in PatternMaker Pro, I built it for this. You went in and you had to designate how each point would be moved for each size grade. It's really tedious, I'll tell you that. It was tedious to build and it was tedious to use. After I had this system done, I went in to make a tutorial on it and I was running through it and it didn't make sense to do it this way. It was awful. And I realized that because of the way that PatternMaker Pro works, we didn't have to do all of this. This could be made so much easier. So I threw the entire thing away and I started over. So now I want to show you what I built as a replacement for this. And again, you're not going to find this anywhere else. So there's no direct comparison, but you'll see when we're done that it's so much more intuitive, and I think that it's much easier for you to do. So this is the pattern that we're going to work with. This is the 001 Easy Fit pattern, and it is available over on the website. There's a tutorial for it, and we do have a full featured demo over here so that you can work with the program and make sure it does what you need it to do before you purchase it. Now I have to tell you, you can't follow what I'm doing in this particular video because I'm going to be outputting SVG files, and that is not allowed in the demo. That's something you would have to use the actual software to do. So you can't do that, but you can watch what I'm doing and get a general idea of how this takes place. Now we do need to have sizes in order to be able to do this, and I'm going to go ahead and refer back to the same book again. She has a really nice size table here with measurements in centimeters in this case, and we're going to use her values to do our grading. And the first thing we need to do is create a measurement set. Actually, I need 2 of them based on this information. And the 2 that I'm going to build in the PatternMaker Pro is the small and the large. And the easiest way to do that quickly is using a CSV file. I could come in here to measurements and add a measurement set and go in and add each measurement, but importing it is much quicker. So here's an example of a CSV file for import. You do need to make sure that you use the correct header names, and then you put in your measurement names and your measurement values. So this is for the small size 8 to 10, which completely mirrors the table that we were looking at just a moment ago. So I created a second one of these for the large size as well. So to import those measurements in here, we do measurements, import measurement set, and this is the small 8 to 10 size. The measurements are in centimeters, and then I just select the file, and then all I need to do is hit import. It says that the set was created with 12 measurements, and now I want to just repeat that for the large. centimeters again, the file, and there's that. So we can look real quickly to make sure that worked the way we intended, and you can see I have a small and a large set in here now. So I'd like to point out that measurement sets are in your program and they're not draft specific, so those sets will always be available regardless of which draft you're working with. So it doesn't really matter what draft is open when you're importing them into the system. This draft was created using Susan's measurements, and Susan is a model, a 3D model that I created, and she has very normal measurements. She is not standard. She didn't come off of a standard book or anything. And something I'd like to point out, which I think is very interesting, is that Susan's bust is 108 centimeters, which would put her off the extra large chart. Her waist is 87 centimeters, which also is off the chart. And her hips are 43.7. So she is nowhere in this realm at all. I do want to take a moment and go off on a bit of a rant here, if I may. I really don't like standard sizing at all, and I think it makes people feel bad about their bodies, and it forces them to wear clothes that don't fit right. If you have the opportunity to use a person's real measurements and draft patterns and sell them, or even to make the garments from those patterns, please do that. Wearing clothing that fits your body is something that most people don't have the opportunity to enjoy. And it's really nice. It gives you a boost of confidence every day when you put on a garment that was made for you and you're not wearing something that's horribly baggy or something that's far too tight. So my ultimate wish list is that our garment system turns into a situation where you provide measurements and garments are made for you personally. There's no waste. There's no 17,000 of something being made. It's made on demand. We're not there. I don't know if we'll ever be there, but that is my ultimate goal. I also understand that that's not the way the world works right now, so I'm hoping to give you a grading system that works as well as it possibly can. Perhaps you can provide a larger range of sizes, and you can help people that are having a really hard time finding garments that come even close to fitting, so take advantage of this if you can. So even though we've established that Susan is well outside the sizing range that we're working with, it doesn't matter. When this pattern was memorized, it was the steps to create the pattern that were memorized, not her measurements, just the names of those measurements. What we're going to do is recall this pattern using the size small measurements and the size large measurements. And those new patterns are what our grading will use. What we need to do here is we need to export this as a memorized pattern. And now we'll go ahead and recall that draft using a different set of measurements. So it's just File, Memorize Draft, Import Draft, and then I'll locate the draft I just output and open that. Now the set I want to use is the size small 8 to 10 and continue. Oh, first I need to rename it. Don't forget to do this. I do that a lot. And here's the measurement mapping system. And we've got some cautions here. It's neck circumference. It found the neck measurement, which is correct. And on the bust, it found just the single bust measurement. So that's fine. I do have the opportunity at this point to add any ease in that I would want. I could just put those values in here, but I'm just going to leave it like this for now. So there is the pattern redrafted with this size small. Now, one thing that you'll notice is that the arm curve does not look good at all. And I think that this is something I brought up in the memorization video, that the curve points are not always moved ideally for every redraft. So I'm going to take a moment here and fix this because this is awful. I just come up to the curves menu and select the move curve points. And I know that this is supposed to be more like that. and that looks more correct. I think this might be a little high. So that looks good. So we'll save that. So now we want to do this again, but this time we're going to use the other size. So File, Memorize Draft, Import Draft, same starting one that we used before. And this time we're going to just select the large measurements. And we have the same problem because I use the same naming conventions, but it's still finding the correct values, so we can accept that. And there is the same bodice drafted with the larger set of measurements. And I am going to go in here and fix that curve. Now this is saved, it's in the library, but what I want to do is export it out as an SVG because I want the size 8 and the size 12 on the same draft. So what I'm going to do is come up to File, SVG, Export SVG, and I'll just call this the large. Now we'll go back and open up that small file again. And then I'll come up here to File, SVG, Import SVG, select the large, and there both of them are. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use these two patterns to create all the values automatically that the system will need for grading. So it's going to look at these points, let's say the armpit for example, and it's going to figure out the difference between those two locations to calculate what the movement is needed for every size grade. When you're working with the grading system, you need to work in order. So I'm going to open it. It's the last little icon here. And you will work from this end to this end on the tools. Normally, PatternMaker Pro doesn't matter. You can pick whatever tool you want, but this is a process, so there are steps involved. If you try to open something early, you're going to get a warning that you're not ready for that yet. So the first thing that we want to do is this first option, which is the grading size table. And the first question it asks is how many sizes are there going to be? And we can look back over and see that we're going to have 5 sizes. So now what you're going to do is you're going to create a table starting from the smallest size to the largest size, telling PatternMaker Pro information about each size as you go along. So the first thing is size 1, and in our case size 1 is an extra small. And it is not a base pattern, nor is it a vector pattern. So our base pattern will be our small and our vector will be our large. So this is considered an intermediate pattern, and then we need to pick a style for it. Now I have a number of styles that I have built into the system, but if you don't like these or you want something different, you can create your own styles so that you can have a very custom situation going on here. This also allows you to create multi-size patterns if you wanted to. You could come in and have a different designation in color and line type for each size. So you could sell it with all the sizes on the pattern if that's what you want to do. So I'm going to just pick orange for the extra small and continue. And now it's on number 2, and do pay very close attention to this. So we're on size 2 of 5. And it's asking, is this the base or the vector pattern? Size 2 is the base pattern. This is the small, 8 to 10. And why don't we give this a red color? Now we're on size 3, and this is the medium, size 12. This is an intermediate, and let's give that a blue. Now we're on size 4, which in our case is the large, 14 to 16, and this is the vector pattern. That's really important that you make that designation. So let's do this one in a purple. And finally, we're on size 5 of 5, and this is our extra large. And let's do this one in a nice green color. And it is an intermediate pattern, so we'll continue. Now here is the table that it created based on the information I gave it. And you can see that we've started with the extra small. We're going up in size, which is exactly what we intended. Our small is the 810 pattern, and our medium, or excuse me, our large is our vector 14 to 16. The reason why you need all of these in a specific order is because the grading is going to look at the position of the size in relation to the base and the vector. So I think everything looks great here. We'll go ahead and save that. So the next thing we want to do is define the patterns themselves. That's the second option right here, add pattern set for grading. Normally, if you were doing this pattern, you would want to do the front and the back and the sleeve. There would be 3 different sets that you would complete for this grading system. In this case, I'm just going to do the front. So this set is just the front bodice. But know that you would create one of these sets for each pattern, if you will. So now it wants me to define what the base pattern actually is. And in our case, the base pattern is the small, which was the pattern that was originally here. So I'm going to hide this large one because it just gets in my way. So I need to select the lines and curves that create a closed shape for the base pattern. And I'm doing the front, so I'll select the front neckline, shoulder, armhole, center front, side, and hem. And continue. Now it says I need to select the outline for the vector pattern. And I'm going to turn the large back on, and then I'm going to hide all of the other one. So all I'm left with is a large. So be careful when you're doing this. I was whizzing through here one day and I didn't switch the patterns, and I created 2 patterns that were the same pattern. So make sure that you hide the other one. So I'm going to do it again, the neck, the shoulder, armhole, side, center, hem. Continue. So there's our patterns. And you'll notice that it did actually create a new pattern. This isn't just selecting what was there and it made it a different color. Those still exist. They aren't being touched in this process. It created brand new ones for you to work with in here. All of the other intermediate sizes are here, but they're all stacked on the base pattern. But this is exactly what you're looking for. You should have 2 outlines basically that still look like your original 2 patterns, and you know that you're good. So I am going to go up here and turn these labels off because they're just distracting. And then I can just go back into the grading system. So now we're ready for the next step, which is to add the point pairs. And you'll notice that all the other patterns were hidden. I'm left with the red pattern, which was our small, and the purple pattern, which was our large. So it says to select a base pattern point. So I'm going to start here with the center neck front. And if you go to choose something in PatternMaker Pro that's very close to something else, it will bring up a list of the 2 items and allow you to choose, because things can get stacked and you need to have the ability to select exactly what you want. So in this case, you can see that I can choose from either of these. I've also got the layer name after the name of the point because they are the same name. It was the same recall. So you can see that the small is here, which is the red one. So I can select that and continue. And now it asks for the vector point, and that would be this one. Again, they were too close together, but I can highlight it. And now I can save that pair. Now what it'll do is put a blue halo around the base and a green halo around the vector. And then we just keep going. You don't have to go in order, so I can pick this one. And notice that it is telling me what I chose, so shoulder small 810, so that you can make absolutely sure you picked the base and not the vector. And now I can just select the vector point and save the pair. So I'm going to go along and finish this up real quick. Now I've done all the pairing. You can see that all the points have the little halo colors on them. And so I can select the done pairing. If you miss a point during this process, you can open this again and do some more. And if you've made a mistake, you can go up here to the remove point pairs and get rid of pairs and reselect them. So the next thing we're going to do is the grading. That's up here, grade patterns. And it says all patterns will be processed even if they've been graded previously. And then you hit grade. And yes, you're done. I know. Let me show you exactly what happened here because I think it's important to highlight the grading table that was set up. So all of our 5 sizes are here. We have our small, or excuse me, the extra small. We have our small in red. We have our medium in blue, our large in purple, and our extra large in green. If you'll recall, our base is red and our vector was purple. Because when we built the size table, we said there is a size between these 2 points. It didn't just say, oh, sizing is from here to here. It knew the logic of, okay, there's a point between, so therefore the sizing is from actually here to here. And it created the vectors that it needed to draw all of these points in perfect alignment where they need to be. One of the things that sometimes is lost is curves are messed up. But because our curve points were also graded, all the curves were redrawn correctly. So I wanted to zoom out so you could get a look at it. But yeah, you're done. That's how easy this process is. Now, you would need to go ahead and take these over within the regular drafting system and add any of your pattern notations and such. You still have to do that, just like you would in any system. So the grading system is completely autonomous from the memorization. Even if you were working with a pattern that was memorized and then you brought a different one in for the vector or something, it would never be memorized. None of this is memorized. It's outside of that capability. This is definitely something you would do at the end of the process. If you want to go back to your original draft and exit grading, you can see that we've got a big red thing going on here because we're not actually on this layer anymore. That was the active layer of the draft. You can select this exit grading and it'll take you out of the grading system and back to the original draft. So I'll show you the layers. There's our original, but the drafting patterns are all here also. So you can turn those back off if you like, and then switch over to each individual one and do whatever final work that you would need to do for those patterns. I'm really curious what you think about this grading system, particularly those of you who have graded patterns before. I know this is nothing like you've ever done before, but I think that it's a very quick way to get accurate results with minimal data. I didn't have to put one movement in here. I didn't have to say X3, Y4 or something. I just made the system do the math, and it works every time. If you have any questions about the grading system or PatternMaker Pro in general, please let me know down in the comments. And thank you for your time. I appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.